Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Wright.
If I had a dime.
You'd have one dime.
Still funny.
It's still...
Hi, Andy.
Yes, hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Now,
I
go
feel
ahead.
good. I feel great. I feel wonderful.
Nice pull.
Mm.
Nice pull. Now, last week we did our follow-up in the middle of the show. So I just want to get this out of the
Yeah.
way. Do you have anything you feel like you missed? Any, open ends that you want to wrap up?
Boy, now that you ask me, I feel like I should say no and then
Wait.
bring it up in the middle anyway.
Yeah, you should.
Yes.
Yeah,
I actually do have one.
Of course you do.
And it's another follow-up to Tom Hanks, because, why not keep talking about Tom Hanks, right?
Are you serious?
You're
serious.
I'm afraid to bring it up, but have you seen the Tom Hanks video that Buckwheat Groats did?
No.
It's they're like hardcore rap, and I can't say I really don't think we should put the link anywhere. If people feel the need to go watch it, they can find it themselves. It's a rap group that's definitely not safe for work.
They're praising Tom Hanks.
Yes, but it's basically, rappers with their hose in very little clothes, and Tom Hanks's face is CG'd onto all of them as he's, spanking butts and all that, and Meg Ryan's face is imposed on some of the ladies, and it's raunchy and it's wrong in every way. And I only find it funny because my wife sent it to me thinking that she's like, "Here, watch this. You're welcome." It's kind of one of those emails. That's why I went and watched it. I'm like, oh, Tom Hanks. Somebody, did a video and put Tom Hanks in it. So I watched it, and I wrote her back. I'm like, that was possibly the most. That was like taking everything good about my life and just taking a big old crap on it. So thanks for that. It really is like horrible and quite tasteless, unless you're really into that hardcore rap that I'm not. But Tom Hanks' son is. His son Chet is in the rap biz, and I guess he actually tweeted out that he loves the video and thinks it's hilarious and all that sort of stuff. And I can't say if somebody did that with my dad, I would think it was great, but I don't know, he likes it. Anyway, that's
I actually can't talk right now because I'm watching it on mute. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Even Steven Spielberg gets a moment in there.
Horrible.
It really is.
This is really horrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all ages of Hanks. They take Hanks from every
all of
age.
them.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom Hanks just hit that person.
Yeah.
He is drinking a whole bottle of wine with Uzis.
Yeah, he's got the Uzis blasting.
Steven Spielberg is spanking that person. This is
his son, Tom Hanks' son, Chester, aka Chet Hayes.
Tom Hanks just shot that guy.
He tweeted, "Thank you for this work of genius. Hanks Nation, La Familia." Just like, oh, okay.
Woody.
Yeah, they go all through his chronology.
Your wife sent you this?
Yes. She didn't watch it ahead of time. She sent it to me. She had heard just a tiny clip of it on the radio and was just like, oh, this would be fun to send to him. He'd love it. He loves Tom Hanks.
Wow.
It was pretty.
Sally Field. You love me. You really love. Yes, they do.
They love
this
something.
This is crazy.
Mm-hmm. There are other words for that that I would use.
I won't watch this again.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I really hesitated even bringing up, but considering it came out right after our Tom Hanks series, I'm like, okay, as much as I think it's just garbage, if someone wants to watch it, they can go Google it. I'll let them know about it. Jeez.
I don't know if that's community service.
I don't know if it is either. It's wrong.
Yeah. Many of these things are like felonies. We are the next reel, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this fine evening. I'm Pete Wright. That over there is Andy Nelson.
Hey!
And we spoil movies every single solitary week. And this week is no different. You can find out more about us at thenextreel.com. You can read the blog stylings of one Steve Sarmento and possibly future other people, which we're working on. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. And you should do that. You can also join us on join the conversation about movies, your favorites and ours, on your social platforms of choice.
Absolutely.
Wow, I'm still watching it, and it's not getting better.
It won't end. Yeah, you just have to turn it off.
It's finally. Andy, do we have any other updates for the people?
We do have one rather exciting update.
Oh,
Pete.
this is a good one.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It's time, folks. It is time for another Listener's Choice drawing. We have put all the names in the hat from everybody who's left us comments on Facebook, on Twitter, people who have played along on the Instagram Guess the Movie Challenge, iTunes. We've kind of gathered all of the comments from and just all of that stuff from everywhere. We gathered everybody's names, thrown them into this great big feral size hat, and we've
Feral-sized hat. I think you meant ferret-sized hat.
Ferret size. That's a.
It's the size of a. It's the size of a ferret.
It's not quite that small. Oh yes, and yeah, we've got all the names in the hat, and I'm ready to do the drawing, Pete.
Let's do the drawing.
That is the best drum roll. That should be a ringtone right there.
But I'm the one recording. Suck it.
That's right. And the winner is Alexander C. Curran.
Alexander C. Curran, come on down.
That's right, man. You are going to be the next person giving us a movie to talk about for our Listener's Choice episode, which we will be recording toward the end of April. I believe it's scheduled to be coming out on April 25th-ish.
This is such a fun part of what we do. This is the one I look forward to a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I'm curious to see, what people pick. I mean, we had a great experience with Stephen Smart's choice of In the Mood for Love last time, and very much looking forward to see what Alexander C. Curran picks for us at the end of April.
So, Alexander, here's what you have to think about. First of all, we're going to try all of the various channels that we can find you, and we're going to try and schedule a time where we can get on the horn with you and record a interview where you can tell us what your film is and why we should be talking about it. Why we should add it to the collection. So thank you so much for following along and listening to the show and commenting.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yes. There you go.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And with that, let's do trailers.
Let's do them.
I'm going to go first because I got to cleanse my palate.
Yeah, I'm sorry I raped your brain with that video.
Just keeps getting worse. I am doing this is my pick of hope. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you. I completely hear you.
This is it's a Nick Frost film.
I love hearing you say that because it's exciting that Nick Frost is carrying a film.
I know. It makes me so happy. Nick Frost film. It's called Cuban Fury.
Yeah, you got to say it like that.
He is a former salsa prodigy as he attempts to come back years after his career was ruined. Feet of fire. And he comes back to woo his boss. It looks like, played by Rashida Jones of The Office and other things, amongst which being the daughter of Quincy.
Yes.
So the trailer, it looks like you might expect. It's it's a comic. It's what we call a comedy film.
It is. It definitely is a comedy. Has lots of comedy in it.
It does have a lot of comedy. It's directed by James Griffiths, and James Griffiths he hasn't. Well, I don't know him from much.
He's a TV guy. I think he's a British TV guy because all the series that he does seem very short.
Yeah. I don't know, and they all have like cute names, like a TV show called Episodes.
Oh, that was the one with Matt LeBlanc, wasn't it?
I don't know that show. Is that the one?
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah.
That was actually not a British show.
No, it wasn't.
That's very funny. So anyway, so he was part of that. But it looks like his first feature film, and so it looks. It's another one. It's written by John Brown, Do we know of John Brown?
Of the Browns? I don't
he's
know
another
of
writer
John Brown, yeah.
He's another writer of many TV shows, and I will tell you why I know of John Brown.
Okay.
He is a writer of several episodes of one of my very favorite shows, Misfits.
Which one was that again?
It's the one where the probation workers. Yeah.
Right. Superpower
probation workers.
criminals, right?
And they're doing community service.
Right.
And so there's 5 seasons of this show, and he wrote several of them. And I do love this show. Talk about it. If we were doing guilty pleasure TV shows, this would be high on my list. I love this show. It's just horribly offensive around every corner. Which is one of the things that excites me a little bit about Cuban Fury. It looks like in the trailer they're teasing us with things that could possibly go into the direction of being horribly offensive. It does not look, however, like it doesn't look like The World's End. The World's End was a deeply touching film. It just doesn't look like that film, but it looks like one that might give us a chuckle. And I love seeing Nick Frost in the prominent placement on the poster.
Absolutely. And just watching him break it out with his mad salsa dancing, it's going to be, it'll be a fun one.
His nemesis is played by Chris O'Dowd.
Yeah.
And we like Chris O'Dowd very much. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was very funny on the TV show, the IT Crowd. But he was also in, recently was in Thor. He's the dopey assistant.
And Bridesmaids as the cuddly cop.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the Sapphires came out. I think it came out in the U.S. last year, but he got a bit of notice for that one. That was an Australian film from 2012. That,
yes,
I think I think it helped get him on the map a little bit more.
Okay, I feel better. I feel like I've shed that a little bit. It comes out right soon, April 11th.
Yes,
in the USA. So
yes,
get ready. All right.
This podcast is clean.
Not after you get your way with it. Now you're going to bring a trailer that's just all dark.
I know. What can you say? Yes. I'm really working, like I said last week, trying to stick with found footage trailers for new found footage films coming out. This is apocalyptic. It looks just horribly unsettling. It is a kind of a news crew in Australia that ends up talking to this kind of crazy homeless man who tells them all about this cult, this doomsday cult that he had been a part of that lives kind of out in the forest. And so this news crew goes out to see if there's any truth to this. And lo and behold, it is a movie, folks. They find this cult actually out there, and then it just gets more and more unsettling as the story goes along. And I think everything about it looks creepy, from the people appearing from behind the trees dressed in those kind of robes to the horribly creepy bald man played by David McRae, who is he's just freaky when he kind of smiles right into the lens. I just don't like looking at that.
And they hold that shot a long time.
They do. They really do. It looks like a really interesting, really creepy found footage style film that, again, kind of like what we talked about last week with Quarantine. It's a news crew that is actually out there filming this. And so there's a reason they're here. They're kind of documenting this story. It's a story they want to put out. And so that is why they're filming this. And, I got to say, creeps me out.
It certainly does. This one, this one has much more of a feel of, it's just people traipsing around the woods. But, we talked about this, about how kind of found footage films have the DNA of documentary filmmaking in them. And this film really celebrates that.
Yeah.
It takes on the mantle of something that's trying to be very, very serious and makes it all, the trailer at least makes it appear all that more authentic.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty creepy. I don't see any release dates for it yet. It was released in Australia last year. I'm guessing it. I don't know if it is the sort of film that's going to get any theatrical release here, but I have a feeling sometime this year it'll end up popping up on VOD, Netflix, etc., etc. So keep your eyes peeled for Apocalyptic.
And now,
What was that?
We take you straight to the set of the most horrific Abercrombie and Fitch ad you've ever seen.
Or Sephora, because
Sephora gone awry in New York, Cloverfield.
What is this for? It's for Rob. Say something to him before he leaves.
Rob's awesome. I'm gonna miss it. Rob, have fun in Japan.
You owe me $11.
How are you gonna survive without Rob? He's like your main dude.
Yeah, no. Hey, how am I gonna survive without you?
I don't know, I'm like your main dude.
What was that noise?
It sounded like an animal.
Phone calls are pouring into the New York One newsroom as a thunderous roaring sound.
You can see something from the roof?
What animal sounds like that?
Like shaking everywhere, man. It's like tremors.
Looks like you should have left town a little bit earlier.
What is it? Is it coming this way?
I saw it! It's alive! It's huge!
Tonight's gonna be the best night ever.
Andy, I'm not going to be a buzzkill on this movie.
you're not.
Well, no, I might be a little bit. But
Okay.
I want to open positively. Okay?
Okay.
I really do. Deeply. One, this is a monster film. In addition
Yes.
to being a found footage film, it is also a monster film. I like the creature design.
Uh-huh.
I like the monster. Okay,
Good.
that's one. Two, I think that what Matt Reeves did with this film is, and particularly, you know, the cinematography by Michael Bonvillian, or Bonvillain. I don't think there's an extra I in there. I think that the way they play with the concepts of found footage films is really fun. And, you know, because one of the things we get with found footage films, they are strictly linear experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last week we talked about Quarantine. It was a strictly linear experience. You don't jump around through time. You move from start to. And this film, I love how they played with time and allowed us to jump back in time and cut around and play with us a little bit. I really liked that. Right? So far, so good.
So far, so good.
I didn't find that there was too much of the first-person shooter stuff in this film.
Right.
So far, I think I'm 3 or 4 for 3 or 4. Right? That's got to be pretty good.
I'd say so.
I can't stand just about anybody in the film. So what? I mean, what? Really? That's what I did. That's what I bring. I find
Buzzkill.
I did. That's where it falls apart for me. And so that means from the very beginning, and that's why it's so hard to watch this movie, because I deeply enjoy the experience of watching it, but I'm constantly slapping my forehead, with the exception, I think, of the cameraman, who he is somebody I am very much attracted to his character. I think he's very funny, and seems to be reasonably natural. Everybody else is I'm not in it. All right, that's what you go.
I agree with you for the most part. Surprisingly, I
Really?
I enjoy the monster quite a bit. I enjoy the whole conceit of J.J. Abrams, when he was, I believe, on a promotional trip for Mission Impossible 3 over in Japan with his son. They were in a toy store, and he was amazed at how prevalent Godzilla toys still were. And this was a creature that had been created, half a century before, essentially. And but they were still so drawn to that creature, and he's just like, wouldn't it be great to kind of try to create that whole feel, do something that has that feel, but it's set in the United States. And so instead of creating another Godzilla remake, which somebody else is doing it anyway, so why worry? He opted to kind of do this whole other thing, kind of Cloverfield. And I love the creature. It is really fun. I also love the fact that it is so hidden from us for the film. And
yes,
stepping outside of the film for a moment, and I think this is something we may explore a little bit later if we come back to it. But I really enjoyed the marketing for this film and the secrecy that they played with at the beginning of this film, and the fact that no one really knew what this film was all about. Was it a big monster? Was it a nuclear disaster film? Was it Voltron? I mean, there were so many theories getting bandied about as far as what this film was going to be. What is this mysterious Cloverfield? Nobody really knew, and that was really fun, and I enjoyed the way that they built that. And so that by the time you saw the film and you actually got to see this creature stomping around destroying New York, it really was a kind of a fun experience to have, not having really known anything about what it was about when you went into it. And I think that is another thing that lent a lot of the excitement about the creature in my eyes. I like that.
Yes. I think in general, the way the film is paced relative to the creature reveal, I think is a real highlight of this film. It is very patient, as frenetic as the film itself is, individual sequences and running and, oh my gosh, how good looking are we? Even though we're in a time of great stress and sadness. It is, overall, it is a very patient film. It is structured really, cleanly in that regard. And so when we see the film, the monster, more clearly, it's more rewarding, I think.
Yes, with an asterisk. We'll come back to the creature effects later.
Yes. And so, the way the little sub-creatures, I think, are a great teaser. To me, that works really well, even though the creatures look a little bit too much like Starship Troopers, buggers.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a problem. But I love the way the little, these little satellite creatures come out and give us an introduction to the monster fight without actually revealing the monster. That ends up being a really, I think, useful tool.
Absolutely.
In terms of building toward the big reveal. So,
well, especially in the context of, remember, this is a found footage film, so we're stuck with these people for the film.
Yep.
And unless they're up on the streets directly kind of running back and forth trying to avoid the great big creature, once they go underground, I mean, essentially they're safe. There's nothing that can happen to them under there. So by finding a way to introduce these parasites, these giant bug things, I mean giant people-sized bug things, but not like giant like Cloverfield city-sized monsters. It's a fun way to introduce that, and it keeps that energy going, and I really do like that. I do like the story, and I really love, like you said, the whole conceit of finding a way to throw flashbacks in a found footage film by using the fact that we're taping over an old story from a month prior, when we see our protagonist as he is kind of with this girl that he really likes, and we get all this setup of the two of them as they go enjoy some time at Coney Island. And the very last shot, when after they've basically been killed, and the tape kind of stops, and we end up watching the rest of their time at Coney Island at the very end of the film before it rolls out. There's a great little nod there, kind of a hint as to how this whole thing started, and it's a great way to not just give us this flashback, but also say, and this is how the whole thing came to be, which I think is really clever.
Yes, totally. I'm glad you brought that up, because that happens like right as she says, "I had a good day," and so it becomes kind of the it's kind of the birth of the action of the film that we just saw, but it's the emotional end of the film, and I think I think that's a really sweet ending shot.
Yeah,
and in the context of the film, it's plausible. And that's one of the things that I think really, works for me in this film, that sequence after sequence, I don't get lost or fall out of, the world that they've created for me. There's nothing in here that makes me just sort of fall out of the world. There are a few things that come pretty close, but overall, I let go pretty easily in the beginning of this film, and I'm able to watch all the way through.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, now going to cast and the actual characters in the story, I'm a little bit with you. I think, and it could just be an age thing. Maybe I would have enjoyed this cast a lot more if it came out when I was in my early 20s, because I would have felt like I was a part of this group, As it stands,
this film was reality bites for us.
It really, yeah, exactly. As it stands, I do find them all a bit annoying. I do like HUD, the one who ends up kind of forced to film this entire story. Although I think one of my biggest problems with the film is his reasoning for continuing to film. I find it less compelling than the news cameraman in Quarantine. I mean, I can.
Well, yeah. Tell me why. Tell me what, because that's that's one of the things I was thinking about.
Yeah, the only reason he's filming is because at the beginning of the film, after we kind of get this flashback setup and everything, we see that there's this going away party for their friend, the protagonist of the film. He's going away. He's going to be moving to Japan to take a job there, and so everyone's throwing a big going away party. The protagonist's brother hands HUD the camera and says, "Hey, I need you to film. I need you to film everything. I need you to, talk to everybody here at this party and get them to say something about Rob." And kind of sets us off on this thing where, okay, so what's going to be happening here is this. It's like a wedding guy. He's going around talking to everybody and saying, "Oh, so what are your memories of Rob? What are your memories?" And that whole thing. And that's really his experience with the camera. He's never worked this camera before. He's never, done anything before camera-wise, it seems. It's just, he's thrust into this by Rob's brother who doesn't want to do it. And now he's walking around interviewing everybody, including Marlena, this girl that he has a crush on, played by Lizzie Kaplan. Okay, so that's all kind of cute. We've seen that sort of setup. Anyone who's gone to a wedding has been interviewed by one of these cameramen who's getting you to say, all those cute things about that person. But then when disaster strikes and Cloverfield actually escapes from the ship, destroys the Statue of Liberty, and the Statue of Liberty head lands outside of their apartment complex, he continues filming. And I don't know, if this were me and I were in this situation where a camera was just thrust into my hands and I was told to just go around filming everybody for the purpose of this going away party, once disaster struck, I feel like I would put the camera down and just go on about trying to survive.
Yeah, the whole people are gonna need to know line was
right. It's like, who are you? All of a sudden a 2020 reporter now?
Right.
It's like I don't buy into the conceit of that very much.
Yes, I agree with that. I had a problem with that, but by the same token, I don't know. It's one of those that I know he's not a professional journalist. I get that. I think that the blow to logic there for me is softened by his humor, and that's one of those things that I think we get in his character, and in particular played by as T.J. Miller. Mm-hmm. Who is a very genuinely funny guy. Yeah. That I think it makes me look forward to every next sequence, because we know no matter how terrible it is, he's going to say something dumb or funny that's going to give me a chuckle and keep me in the thing. So I feel like structurally I look forward to him taking on that role, even if I feel like they're pounding me a little bit over the head by his sudden jolt of ethics.
I mean, yeah, and I would agree with you on that. I mean, I can buy into it, and it's like once I get past it, I'm fine. I can enjoy the film, and I can settle with the conceit because he is a very likable character, and he's somebody that's he does have some funny lines as the cameraman, and I don't know, it does end up working, even though I still think they could have found a better way to get into this thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that Drew Goddard, I mean, I give him a lot of credit for writing the script. I think he came up with a great, fun story that works pretty well. He's kind of in this, this J.J. Abrams camp that he and Matt Reeves are in. They all kind of have known each other. I believe actually J.J. Abrams, who produced this, and Matt Reeves knew each other from when they were much younger, like kids making, Super 8 films or something like that. Like they've known each other for quite a long time. And I believe that then they developed Felicity together. And then, so that kind of, that kept them moving and working together. And then Drew Goddard also had been working with them for quite a while. And as, I mean, he's written quite a bit of things for Lost, Alias, Angel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, I mean, he's clearly been working with them for a while. And then Cloverfield. And then he got his turn writing and directing Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah, we like that.
Yeah. So it's a good group of guys. Definitely a kind of that group of young Hollywood guys who are making fun TV, fun movies. They're... Yeah, J.J. Abrams, I mean, everybody, I guess, now kind of knows who he is because he's, aside from making some really great TV shows and movies and stuff like that, here he is, this guy who's going to be kind of taking the helm of Star Wars.
Right.
So, I mean, I think he's kind of really come into his own as this guy who's kind of the next Steven Spielberg or something like that. He's not just writing, directing, producing projects. Now he's helping develop and create entire, these big franchises. And I think he's a good guy for that. I mean, Cloverfield is essentially another franchise that these guys have created because, I mean, they are in development on a sequel already.
That, I don't know. How do you feel? Are you excited about a sequel?
I do. I mean, I enjoy this film. It is a fun film to watch, despite the kind of a bit of the annoying people involved. I'm hoping that getting a different group of people maybe in the sequel, that I may actually enjoy them more. This is what the plot summary currently is. After the events of which Cloverfield was documented, the government has archived the footage and spreads off into several tangents of storylines, while an investigator searches for the missing footage of a bystander found in footage recovered in formerly known Central Park to uncover any other perspectives of what is being known as the Cloverfield Ground Zero. On the other end, the government is investigating the deep-sea drilling company Tagruato and its links to the awakening of an unknown being that may have been caused by the company's owned satellite falling from orbit. Government's deep-sea exploration and DARPA investigators travel backwards in search of the being's origin and how to stop it. That's interesting. So it's actually a kind of like Pacific Rim. It's a creature from the deep. It's not... it's interesting reading this. I had always thought that it was falling from space at the end. It crashes down into the sea. Somehow they get it into this tanker. It escapes the tanker and then goes on this rampage.
But it turns out it was a satellite falling from space.
Space, right.
Which awakened the angry beast.
Yeah, from under the sea, which is interesting because, I mean, it seems to breathe oxygen pretty well.
Well, that's one of the things, talking about creature design that I think works so well for this thing is that it's a creature that really genuinely looks like it's not comfortable.
It doesn't. It looks like...
It doesn't look like it's naturally meant to exist in a city.
It doesn't look like it wanted to be disturbed. Like, I really wouldn't want to disturb this thing.
Yeah, I think it's part of the reason that it sort of gives it character, that its physical presence looks so kind of awkward and gangly and unreal that, no wonder it's messing up the city. It's just, somebody lead it back to the water.
Well, it's got those elbow joints that like bend the wrong way, so its arms are like, I don't know. It's a weird looking creature.
Part of the reason it throws its weight around is because it's so awkward walking, like it can't walk. And so that makes me buy it. You said in the beginning that you put a big asterisk by the creature stuff. What are we talking about there?
Well, I think. As much as I do enjoy the creature, and I think I enjoyed a lot more in the fleeting glimpses that we see, because when we do see the creature, I think the first real good glimpse, albeit it's still a fairly quick one, is when they dart into the subway and there's the whole army attacking it, and these guys just barely make it into the subway, but Clover comes stomping right over them.
That was a tough one for me.
That one, and then at the end when we see Clover as he kind of stands over HUD before he eats him. I feel like the CG is just not quite there for any of the creatures, not just Clover, but all of the parasites and everything. They all look just really kind of not completely rendered, and I feel like I'm looking at roughs of them.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's something, because it's all. I mean, the trick with making a film like this that is vastly full of CG. I mean, most of this film was actually filmed in LA.
Right.
And they just digitally created this New York world and everything. When you're filming and you have to digitally replace a lot of stuff on green screen, you have to go through frame by frame and essentially like match every little point of the frame as far as reference points, so that when you put in something else, it's going to have the same movement. It's going to have that same, whatever the movement is. When you go to shaky-cam, that job becomes vastly more difficult, because now all of a sudden the camera's all over the place, but they still have to find a way to lock everything in. And I don't know if it's just the fact that they had to spend so much time locking everything, because I swear, I think that this entire film is taking place in New York City. Nothing in this gives away the fact that this was mostly filmed in LA. Like, I buy into the New Yorkness of this film.
Totally.
What I don't buy into is the creature all the time. I feel like there are great moments, like when when the stealth flies over and drops all those bombs on it and Clover collapses into the building.
That's the first high wide shot that we see of Clover walking through the city.
Toward, we feel like these guys are finally going to escape, and then Clover, gets blasted and everything. That works really well for me. I think it's when we're a lot closer to Clover and we're actually seeing the face that it just ends up looking a lot more CG to me.
Yeah.
And I just feel like even that last shot of Clover, they weren't planning on putting it in there. They were going to do a much quicker shot as basically he turned the camera and Clover happened to be behind him and ate him just right away. But they opted to spend a little more time on Clover, give the audience a chance to enjoy Clover, which I appreciate because I really enjoy looking at the creature. I just feel like it looks like a CG creature. I don't feel like it's a tangible creature. Like I don't feel like it's something that just stepped out of Lord of the Rings and is now in New York City.
Yeah, no, that was going to be my, I didn't feel like it was necessarily unfinished. Although, here I am looking at stills online, just, searching through kind of images, and I'm getting more of a sense of that. But it's that final shot, which, like you, I appreciate being able to get a few seconds to actually, look at Clover. But the creature seems to me a touch clean. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that might be it.
Like it's just, and even it's got a little scarring on it, some cuts, but it just looks a little bit too, it looks fine. It does. It looks like a rendered, like a game.
Yeah. Right.
Like a game's interpretation of a really good Rancor monster,
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean it's great, but I see your point, and it's that scene that I actually have the most kind of trouble with, that I want it to be better, and it lets us linger so long, that it almost gives us too much time to think about it.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate that they did that, but I feel like if you're going to do that, you have to make sure you have the money to make it look right.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's stumbling on image search. There's a Hasbro's Cloverfield monster, and the Hasbro monster looks alarmingly like the monster from the movie. Like they shouldn't be able to get it that right.
That's really funny. Buy one for the kiddies.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
Too funny.
Okay, so other elements in terms of just the general. So I mentioned that the problem I had with it was, there were these moments, and like the subway moment, when they come up out of the subway and suddenly they're in the middle of a battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
It happens so suddenly, like it's such a surprise that nobody turns their head left or right to see that, there's an army that's getting into position like 50 feet from us, to the point that now there are missiles flying overhead. I find that was just a little bit too convenient. And so, it's one that frustrates me, but it happens so quickly that we just kind of, I move on.
Yeah.
And luckily there aren't too many of those. But other than that, structurally, you feel like the film works.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of first person, I think, is really fun to put into something like this, where it's taking kind of this epic story of this massive monster destroying a city and people trying to escape, and really narrowing it down to just a very few small group of people. I mean, we've seen movies like this all the time, not necessarily in the first-person style, which I think is definitely a fun way to do that. I like the way that they use first person to put it into this situation that allows them to give us a creature film where they are able to hide the creature from us for a vast majority of the time because of the filming style.
Yes, absolutely. What is your thought? And I don't want to sort of derail too much of this, but what is your thought of making the sequel not in found footage?
Right. I don't know. It seems strange to me. It's like, okay, I guess, yes, it fits within the world of Cloverfield. This story that we just watched happened to be from the point of view of these characters who were filming it as they were living it. And then in the context of that world, sure, yes, there is a military that found this tape and now has locked it up next to the Ark of the Covenant. But we can explore this world and see other things. Now, that's me looking at it from the point of view of within the film. Sure, there's obviously a much larger scope, and it would be interesting to explore all of that. In our world, looking at it from that perspective where, okay, we have this film, Cloverfield, that was first-person point of view film, found footage style. Does it make sense to make a sequel that's not? I don't know. To me, it strikes me as funny. It's like Paranormal Activity works so well because they consistently find ways to make every one of those sequels, whether it's good or bad, still from that first-person point of view. I don't know if it's going to work as well with Cloverfield.
What makes me actually a bit bullish on it is that I think it works in the context of a universe, right? That if we take as rote that the first film was literally footage found and put into part of a collection of an ongoing investigation and war against this creature from the deep, that doesn't it stand to reason that other elements of this universe may, that we may actually need to see the story play out in a way that is not explicitly found footage, that we may need to meet some characters that are actually interacting with the found footage and using it as evidence. Like, aren't there investigators? I'm not sure that they've set themselves up to a bit too sophisticated of a preamble.
Well, and yeah, that's essentially what I was trying to say earlier, although I think you...
Oh, I thought we were disagreeing.
No, I think we're agreeing.
We're in violent agreement.
I think we're in violent agreement. No, that's what I was saying is I felt like exactly like you just said. I can see why, like from the story point of view, why it would make sense to branch out and tell different stories. I just wasn't sure. I don't know yes or no if it will work or not, but I can see the reasons for it.
All right. Well, clearly,
so there.
I think you're quite astute.
Take that, sir.
Back to Michael Bonvillain. Bonvillain. I like this guy. One of the reasons I like him because he did some work on Alias, awesome show. Did some work on Fringe. He did the pilot for Fringe. He did Zombieland. He was DP for Zombieland and your favorite and mine, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
Oh yeah.
Yes. What stands out to you in terms of the cinematography of this film that we have?
Nothing really. Except for, I say that jokingly, but I mean the cinematography itself doesn't stand out. It fits in the context of the found footage sort of film. But a few things that I think are of note. Obviously, like I said earlier, a huge chunk of this film was filmed on stages in L.A. and just in other LA locations that they had to fit into the New York feel. I think as a cinematographer, he did a great job getting everything set up for the visual effects team to come in and do all the replacements that they needed to do. That's obviously a critical part of being a cinematographer on these visual effects films is knowing how to do all of that. And I think he did it well. Yeah,
there some of the big like the tentpole scenes or sequences. The rescue of Beth in particular was one that I thought worked really well. The buildings had been one giant skyscraper leaning against the other is a particularly ominous set piece, and I think it was covered quite well.
And apparently on a set that kind of like what we were talking about with Inception, where it actually was at a slant, and it was such a slant that it was actually making people nauseated because they couldn't get settled. They just were they kept feeling like things just weren't right, and so they actually did get people a little ill on that set. Fun times. But the other thing about cinematography that I wanted to say is when you're doing these found footage style films where you do have ostensibly what is supposed to be really long takes for the most part, right? Unless the person turns the camera off, it's supposed to be just one long shot.
Right.
The camera, the DP and the camera operators become very astute, along with, in partnership, I should say, with the director and editor, become very astute at finding ways to move the camera where if they know that they move the camera a certain way, kind of a swish pan over here past that pole, that pole might be enough of a point where they can actually cut, and they can use it as a transition point to cut to something else. Something that I find interesting, and this is something we didn't talk about last week with quarantine, but I think in both of these cases, there are probably a lot more completely invisible cuts all through those really long takes that we just never see because they so effectively found a way to shoot them and to edit them together where it becomes completely invisible. And you could have a long, what seems like a long, 6-10 minute take, whatever it is, that could have 20 cuts in it for all we know. They find ways to blend it. And when you're doing a film like this where you've got long takes, in a typical film format where you're not swishing the camera and moving it around so much, you're really stuck with the story. And we've talked about this on an episode a while ago, I can't remember which one, but where the filmmaker had long takes, and what you're stuck with is that's it. You have that. You don't, if it's a slow-paced take, you're stuck with it. You can't find a way to speed it up because that's what you have to live with. However, when you move the camera around as much as you are in this, you end up creating great points where you can actually cut things down. And if you do have a scene that's running long, you can actually find ways to cut things out and whittle it down. So I think it's a very effective techniques to use in these found footage style films that both Quarantine and Cloverfield use quite a bit.
The when we're talking about equipment, I agree with you. And now I have another. I'm moving on. And because much of that is because it inspires this next question. So ostensibly you're watching these found footage films. You are led to believe that you are looking at these films on. Well, in this case, you are looking at this film on a off the shelf camcorder. And while my understanding is that some of this film was shot in using off-the-shelf equipment. Much of it was shot not on this equipment.
Right.
That it was actually the highest of the high end of Sony's Cine Alta F23 a high-end camera. What is your sense of what they have to do to make this film look like one piece? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it all boils down to all that work in post and finding ways to fit things together. And they may have to downgrade images at some point, but in order to fit with kind of that handy-cam footage that they're incorporating into it. But I think for the most part, you want to shoot with those more higher-end cameras, whether it's a Viper or whatever it is that they're using, because when you have to build these effects into a film, you really need a high-quality image so that you can find all the right tracking points. So when the camera is getting switched around, you're tracking all the right information and able to replace all the green screen with the stuff you need. And then you can do whatever you need to do to downgrade that image to match the handy-cam footage. It is quite an elaborate process. And I think that, for a film like this, is where they spent a bulk of their money.
Well, it's amazing.
I think it's seamless. It
really is. In that case, it's a work of art.
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty solid.
Yeah. And they didn't shoot it on SD cards. I'm just saying.
No, they didn't. Something else that we didn't talk about last week is the fact that when you're doing a found footage film, there's really no logical reason to have a film score. You don't have music in them. And in both cases, they use sounds really well, and they just use tension in the scenes and to find ways to kind of build that tension so that you kind of create the moments. Something I love about Cloverfield, one of my big loves, is the fact that even though there's no score, Michael Giacchino did write kind of a Cloverfield overture that does play over the end credits. And I really just love that piece of music. It is such a great just monster music sound to it. It's called Roar, the Cloverfield overture. And I believe it's just something you can download off of iTunes. Great track, great piece of music.
Yeah, I love the it's like a nod to just the age, probably again, the age of the actors in the film, but the whole idea that the soundtrack itself was released as Rob's party mix.
Yeah, right.
With all of the bands of the day on it, I thought it was. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, although it's certainly not something I was interested in picking up.
No, I didn't add that to my list, but I thought it was very clever.
Yes.
Again, get back to the marketing.
Yes.
All right. Who else stands out? I feel like I'm loath to run through the cast so much.
No, the cast. I think they're effective. Effective in context of the story, even though I don't really enjoy that aspect of the film. Yeah. I kind of get tired of this group of people fairly quickly. But Brian Burke and J.J. Abrams are the two producers on the film. Brian Burke is another one who's been with these guys for quite a while. So it's just kind of their team. We talked about Michael Bonvillian. Kevin Stitt did the editing. I think he did a fantastic job, like I was talking about earlier, with the way that they found cut points within the shots. And I think that the production design, Martin Wist, creating all of this New York looking stuff on the set in order to actually make it look like New York, I think is pretty stunning. So I just think, all of those people I really tip my hat to, finding a way to shoot a movie in LA and make it look so much like New York. I think they did a really great job with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Seamless. Let's see. In terms of the cast, the one that I did want to note is Jessica Lucas, who's apparently a singer and an actress from Canada. She played Lily in the film, right?
Right.
She was the big-eyed alien nurse doctor in the opening sequence of Star Trek.
Ah.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is because I was obsessed with it for the longest time. It was one of those, where have I seen her before? I couldn't picture her with the small eyes. Turns out, yeah, she doesn't really have big eyes in real life.
That's pretty funny. And she was also recently in the Evil Dead remake.
Yes. And she's coming up in Pompeii.
Didn't that already come out and disappear?
Exactly. Did it really?
It did. That's yes.
Is that out now?
It's out and gone.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how good that one did.
Oh.
Not quite
it
the
opened
Titanic
on
they were
February 21st. That was some time ago. Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh. Well, I'll have to send a card.
There you go.
What else do you have? Anything else on your list?
I think that's about it. I mean, other than I'm just always impressed with the effects of this film. I do like the way it builds to that ending where you get the actual direct confrontation with the creature in the park. I am just always a little underwhelmed by the creature. I mean, as much as I love the creature, I'm underwhelmed by the actual effects work of the creature. I always feel like by the time we get to that point, I really want just a perfect looking creature. I don't want one that looks a little kind of not quite there. I'll go so far as saying even the Statue of Liberty's head, when it's laying on the ground, always looks fake to me. I mean, I enjoy it. I think that's pretty cool, and it's a great scene, but it never looks like it's a real Statue of Liberty head. It looks like a video game.
Yeah, again, a really solid render.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can buy that. That's although I don't know how to. That's one of those things that I don't know how to rationalize what it would look like.
I've never seen it that close, so you're right. But at least it would look more in place.
Yes, it doesn't look in place in some angles. For me, the film really it holds up as a found footage film, and I think that's really where it moves the genre forward by applying some of these techniques to let us look at time in a found footage film in a whole new way. And I think it really applies a new sense of cleverness at just the right doses. And so I appreciate the film on that level. I love the pacing of the film and the structure of the film. And it's still a film that I have trouble saying I'm going to put this on often, because I get so annoyed with the people in it. So quickly. So it moves a lot of things forward, and it still can get kind of tedious to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where I am.
That's where you'll stay.
It did fairly well in the box office.
This one definitely did better than Quarantine did. I mean, this is much higher up on our list of films. Let's see, this film cost almost a little more than twice what Quarantine did. $25 million for this film, and then $37 million for prints and advertising. So
it's pretty short, right? At 84 minutes.
Yeah, it's just a little 84-minute movie, and actually Quarantine was pretty short too. So I mean, that's definitely a benefit, especially in our line of thinking as far as cost per finished minute. That definitely helps it move up on our rankings. So all told, they spent $62 million on this film. And They made domestically just over 80 million and internationally just over 90 million. So total gross was almost $171 million. Adjusted, that'd be about $184 million. And when you look at it per finished minute, it's adjusted at about $1.4 million per finished minute.
Oof.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
Yeah.
Where does that put it on the list?
It is number 25.
All right.
Right under When Harry Met Sally, right above Panic Room.
Excellent. Let's rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com if you want to join us in the ranking process. Friend us over there, and we can compare lists. We should totally compare lists. It'd be fun.
Yes, indeed.
Let's do it.
All right, Cloverfield or The Bourne Ultimatum.
Didn't we just have that one?
I feel like we had that same one last week.
I would say The Bourne Ultimatum.
I would say The Bourne Ultimatum. Cloverfield or Yee Yee, a 1 and a 2.
I would say Cloverfield.
I would say Cloverfield. I think it's just the length of Yee Yee is what keeps me off of it. Cloverfield or Panic Room.
I would say Panic Room.
Me too, even though it made less money per finished minute.
Yeah. There's no accounting for taste.
That's right. Cloverfield or It Happened One Night. This is feeling very similar to last week.
Very familiar.
We may end up having a neck and neck thing. Cloverfield or It Happened One Night.
Cloverfield.
Yeah, I feel guilty saying that, but I'm gonna. Cloverfield or A League of Their Own. I feel like this one I would actually do A League of Their Own.
I think so too. There is no crying in baseball.
There is no crying in baseball. Cloverfield. Oh, this is interesting. Cloverfield or Alien 3. Interesting sci-fi films. Both have their problems.
Yeah. Wow. I have a hard time with this because I have less of a problem with the cast of Alien 3. And so I find it more watchable.
Mm-hmm. Despite it having some problems with the story and some much worse looking creature effects.
Yes.
I
still think I'm going Alien 3.
Yeah, I feel like I am too. All right, Cloverfield or The Game?
The Game.
Yeah, totally The Game. There we are, number 87.
Still cracked the top 100.
Out of 126. Quarantine is still in the 80s. It's at number 81. So they're both in there.
All right. This was good. Where do we go from here?
We're going to continue our fun time with these movies, and we're going to talk about Chronicle.
I can't wait to talk about this one, especially now that we've watched these two.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm really.
It'll be nice to see. It's a little bit of a different change in genre as far as the found footage films. So it's going. I mean, we've kind of had a nice variety. I mean, Quarantine, really the horror haunted house style found footage film. Cloverfield. There's some horror, but really it's
mostly
kind of
it's a creature
feature
film.
Yeah. And then Chronicle is a little bit more of kind of a superhero sort of movie.
Right. Superhero thriller.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to explore that one.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it.
And then the romantic comedy found footage film of Troll Hunter.
Oh,
okay,
so
maybe not
sweet. All right, that's coming next week. I think we're done.
I think so.
Hey.
I think we hit all the points and talked about every little creature we saw in the movie.
Is this the wine talking? I'm wondering.
I've had a few.
What happened?
I don't know.
What happened to Andy?
Man.
You
Falling
go
apart. I need to go. I need to go to bed.
You go to bed.
This is what happened.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.